Thank you so much. So the way they have it set up is do my part first. I completely agree with you guys. No worries. I'll keep it real. I know. I appreciate all the support. I know.
Long before Kansas became a reality, we were the only one in the power.
That's true.
When the party put it
I'm trying to forget that now.
yeah,
Wow.
we were leaders in this yesterday.
Who set the precedent? Yes. That's what I do. Apprenticeship. Apprenticeship.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much.
So it's a very diverse audience.
I'm taking it off, and then
This is one of the best sites to tell people to share on Let me try and gotta slug work. I'm sure dependent that to get him in on time.
Hey, good, how are you doing? Oh, nice. And you finally learned how to wear a tie? Well, I don't know. I don't know. Although I'm sorry, where were you? 5 miles? Where do you like to go? Just in the neighborhood. That's great. But I would answer the same in the morning.
Breakfast.
5 miles? How long? That's really good.
What time we got home? 10 p.m.
I know, see, it's really saving money for everybody else. Thank you. Everybody, the rest of the population. And then these don't hurt you. Whether or not you know, you're not on it. You're in the neighborhood and they're not living there where you live anyway, so I don't think you have to worry about it. I don't think you do any damage. You don't, I don't think you, yeah, I think you have any connected them, which is a blessing.
My friends.
So you like our issue?
Good. Thank you both for being here.
All right, well, it's great to see you. I'm glad you're going okay. How's anything happening? How's Janice?
Check, check.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started in a few minutes, so I ask if you're grabbing your breakfast, outside registration, or milling about. Great to see all the energy in the room, but we'll get started in a couple of minutes. appreciate that. That'd be good. All right. I'm going to get started while you go ahead there. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today in the wonderful city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. My name is Daniel Bustillo. I'm the Executive Director of the Healthcare Career Advancement Program, otherwise known as HCAP. And we're proud to be here with our partners in Pennsylvania for this Apprenticeship Accelerator and Forum on the expansion of apprenticeship in healthcare. Let me start by talking a little bit about what HCAP is. Some of you may not be familiar with HCAP, but HCAP is a national labor management collaboration organization across 16 states plus DC of unions and employers that are working together on innovative models of healthcare workforce education and training, such as a registered apprenticeship. We're proud to be here in Pennsylvania. We have two great partners here in Pennsylvania, District 1199C and SAU Healthcare PA. You know, they're go ahead, say it louder again, go ahead. All right. And I do want to acknowledge as well, so you see sort of this fancy camera setup around the room. We have some folks out in Pittsburgh that are joining us here as well, so we want to say hello to them. All right, thank you. So the past couple of years, in addition to being interesting, have been an exciting time for us in the context of thinking about registered apprenticeship. So I'll keep my remarks brief because we have a lot to get to, but registered apprenticeship, if we think about it as a workforce training program, even though a lot of healthcare workforce training has traditionally been on-the-job learning based, the formal registered apprenticeship system does not have a long history of adoption in healthcare. The past couple of years have been exciting times in the sense that we're really, all the folks in this room and all the folks around the country that we work with have really been breaking new ground in terms of developing registered apprenticeship as a really robust training model that is good for workers and good for employers. So I'm excited to be in Pennsylvania today because I think Pennsylvania is frankly one of the leading states in the country in terms of thinking about breaking new ground when it comes to thinking about adopting registered apprenticeship in healthcare. So we're going to hear about many of the great stories and work that has taken place to date, and really think about what can we learn from each other to push forward registered apprenticeship. What are the new innovations that folks from Pennsylvania, and we actually have a couple of folks, we have Dr. Doug Reese joining us from New York as well. We're thankful to have him here today to talk about the community health worker model out in New York. But what are the learnings that we can take away from today in the context of registered apprenticeship as we think about expanding this model in healthcare? So with that being said, there's a few things I want to review in terms of agenda. So we're going to kick off with introductions. You all have a packet in front of you, which has a variety of helpful information, but it also has the agenda on the left-hand side of that packet. We're going to kick off the day, as I said, welcoming introductions from a variety of folks who I'll acknowledge in a minute. Keynote. We'll have an employer roundtable to really dive into some of the issues related to registered apprenticeship and get the employer perspective on why they've invested in these registered apprenticeship programs. We'll also have an apprentice roundtable. One of the things that we all know is that mentorship and coaching are extremely important components of any workforce model, but particularly in registered apprenticeship. One of the most powerful things about the registered apprenticeship model is that there are really robust mentorship and coaching components that are built into it, that if we think about where we're going with the transitioning healthcare system, registered apprenticeship has been called the gold standard of training. Mentorship and coaching is an integral component of that. We'll then have a variety of breakout sessions on a few different topics. Those breakout sessions, we'll mention this again, they are not located here on this floor. I'm just getting to the logistics now. They're not located here on this floor. They're in the mezzanine. So on the agenda, it says Salon 3, 4, and 5. Where it says Salon 5, that is actually Salon 6. There is no Salon 5. So Salon, they're all next to each other, so you can't go wrong, but Salon 3, 4, and 6. Wi-Fi. For those of you who might need Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi code is, this is all in caps, HCAP 2018, all no space. But the HCAP is in capital letters. It's the Wi-Fi code. The system is Sheridan Meeting. So without further ado, let me just start out by saying this would not be possible with a variety of people who are here today in the room, and you're going to be hearing from most of them throughout the day. But just want to make a few acknowledgments. I want to make sure to acknowledge Managing Director of the City of Philadelphia, who you'll be hearing from, Mike DeBernardinis. Yes, please clap for these folks. Patrick Clancy, and please stand up so people know who you are as well. Patrick Clancy, President and CEO of Philadelphia Works. Cheryl Whitfield, co-chair of the District 1199C Training Fund Board. She's not here now. Okay. John Lasky? No. Okay. Jim Fody, where are you, my friend? Jim Fody, DOL Regional Apprenticeship Administrator. Sheila Ireland, Executive Director of the city's Office of Workforce Development. Of course, I want to thank Cheryl Feldman and Lisa Williams. Cheryl Feldman from the District 1199C Training Fund, and Lisa Williams with the ASLU Healthcare Pennsylvania Training and Education Fund. Wendell Royster, who's a SLU Healthcare PA VP and a board member of the Training Fund. I want to thank all the HCAP staff in the room. Can you please just take a moment to stand up? Thank you for your help and support today. Neelam Gupta, Tamara Marcio Dosi, and Grace Aarons. And last but not least, and I'll make this by way of introduction, we want to thank President Henry Nicholas from District 1199C and Executive Vice President of SAU Healthcare PA, Jesse Wilderman. And I'm going to turn it over to both President Nicholas and Jesse, and we thank you. We truly appreciate and deeply appreciate the support. Without the support that both of your organizations have given us, none of this would be possible. So I want to turn it over to the two of you, President Nicholas and Jesse.
Thank you. I rise to recognize this historical moment. And this is a historical moment. I happen to be among the most senior citizens in the room at 82. But at 82, I've had good health and I've never been on vacation yet because I've worked all of my life for this moment. And I also want to recognize perhaps one of the most visionary person in the room, Cheryl Feldman, who drives all of the activities that make us whole in the Healthcare Workers Union. And this is a special moment for all of us. For 82 years, I've wanted to be here because for those 82 years, I was excluded. The day recognized that we've made some step forward. There was a time, if you look like me, you couldn't get an apprenticeship program right here in the America that we love. So this is a historical moment. And it's historical, and I'm so honored that Cheryl, who is the genius within my organization, who drives all of our educational and our moral compass in the union, she is without a doubt a genius and works very hard every day. And I just wanted to acknowledge that because a lot of us are here because of her work. And I've had some opportunities. I said I've worked all my life, I've never been on vacation. And in Philadelphia, they decided to honor that. And I'll probably be the only black man, Iron Man in Philadelphia. And they have decided to structure me right next to my opponent, Frank Rizzo. Because we fought every day for a long time. And he had a nickname for me, the Sunday school boy. So this is a special moment, and we are honored to be a part of it. For those that don't understand what I understand, don't know how precious this moment is. And so I want to thank everybody who had a hand in making it happen, because we didn't get here without someone's vision. We have perhaps one of the best training and upgrading funds in the United States, headed up by Cheryl Feldman. And we've been striving to get to this moment for a long, long time. And I want to thank everybody for helping us get here. because this is a historical moment, a new beginning. And for everybody in this room, you should give yourself a round of applause, because this is a moment in history that will change the nation forever. And I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so very much.
So in the union, we go by seniority, so I get to go second. So my name is Jesse Wilderman. I'm with SEIU Healthcare Pennsylvania, and we're a healthcare workers union that represents about 40,000 folks across the Commonwealth. We work with all different kinds of folks in hospitals, nursing homes, and home and community-based services. I just want to welcome everyone. We're excited to be here. I think apprenticeships and registered apprenticeship programs for us are a really, really exciting opportunity for frontline workers to build their skills, and to, in some ways, we believe that skills equal power, and to improve their opportunity for improved work wages and benefits. A lot of what we do in the union is about wages and benefits and trying to help people get better wages and benefits and build their skills so they can advance their careers. And that's really important. But the other really important component of this, and I think what we hear over and over again from our members, is having meaning and joy in their work is just as important as having the wages and benefits that they feel good about. And part of what we're excited about in terms of the apprenticeship program is it gives people a real opportunity to invest in their profession, to learn and to find more meaning and joy and agency in their work. And that's the kind of thing that we believe results in higher quality in terms of delivering the care that we do every day as healthcare workers. So that's a really important component, and sometimes gets lost in the discussion about why do we help people advance their careers and gain agency and power, is the joy and meaning they find in their work. The other thing I'll say about this program and registered apprenticeship and training more broadly is that for our union, it really helps us achieve one of the core goals we're focused on, which is the triple aim of higher quality, greater access, and lower costs in healthcare. And it's obvious how training and investing in the frontline workforce improves quality. That's pretty obvious. But it's sometimes a little bit counterintuitive that spending more money and investing in the front line actually lowers costs. People say, well, that doesn't really make sense if you're spending more money. But actually, the key driver in healthcare, obviously, is in terms of cost, is quality. And so when we have higher quality, when people are not readmitted, when people don't end up in the emergency room or don't end up in institutional placements when they want to live in the home, those are the kinds of things that actually lower the cost, the overall cost of healthcare. So that investing, actually spending the money and the resources and the time to invest in the people delivering the care on the front lines is the key thing that's going to allow us to lift up the quality, to expand the access for people, and over the long term to lower the cost and make our healthcare system sustainable. So that's another element of why we think it's really, really exciting and critical to be part of these training programs and building up the registered apprenticeship. So I want to welcome everyone today, and we're excited to do this learning and engagement together with you. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. It's so fantastic to see you here. Really appreciate the opportunity to spend the day thinking about apprenticeship in healthcare and really learning from each other. There's one more person that we need to thank, and that is Susan Thomas. Susan, are you here? Susan put a lot of effort into organizing this. Thank you so much. So we're excited to join HCAP today in hosting this conference. Such a great opportunity. We've been really passionate about apprenticeship programs, so right now we're working with well over 30 employers engaged in apprenticeship with us. There are more that are interested in coming on board. We have well over 80 apprentices and growing. We're expanding our early childhood apprenticeship into Delaware and Chester counties, and talking with the state of Pennsylvania about replication of our early childhood apprenticeship program statewide. So we're just really I'm on fire about apprenticeship. It's just been fantastic. But we are thankful for our employer partners, because apprenticeship is driven and led by employers. We're the intermediary, but we couldn't do it without the employers and the union partners that are a part of it. And so I just want to give a really big shout out to our employer partners and to our unions who work together. And of course, to our amazing funders, our government partners. If Ron Leonard hadn't impassioned me about apprenticeship, I wouldn't be here today. Ron from the U.S. Department of Labor's Regional Apprenticeship Office, and Jim Fody, the Pennsylvania Office of Apprenticeship, Philadelphia Works leading the way. I mean, it's all been fantastic. So I now have the great pleasure of introducing Patrick Clancy, President and CEO of Philadelphia Works, a friend of ours and a true leader in Philadelphia in terms of really giving workforce a new oomph that we haven't had in a long time. So thank you, Patrick, and thank you for your leadership, especially in the apprenticeship world.
Thanks, Cheryl. Good morning, everybody. What a great day, right? We get to hear some great and passionate speakers. In a couple of minutes, you're going to hear Mike DeBardinis, who's probably one of the most impassionate men in the city of Philadelphia. Don't get nervous, Mike. I'm setting you up good, buddy. But I do also want to talk a little bit about, what is Philadelphia Works and what do we do? So we are the workforce board for the city of Philadelphia. The workforce board is 31 board members, all appointed by the mayor of Philadelphia. I myself am appointed by the mayor of Philadelphia. So for us, it's about how do we make sure that the vision that we're trying to grow a better city, get people out of poverty, and really think through the strategies with businesses, how do we get more people back to work? So for us, it's about how to connect with really good programs, and particularly for the ones that really make a lot of sense. The earn and learn model, that is something that you'll hear throughout the day, is incredible. For a lot of our customers, they need to make money as they continue to go back to school. So we're really impassionate about the work we do. In fact, we're so impassionate that we're actually hiring 2 more staff to join our organization. So all this work comes under Meg Cope-Chappelle, who's in the back. Please, Meg, stand up. So Meg is our chief research officer, and really, she does an amazing job along with her staff. I know you're going to hear from Mark Genoa a little bit later. He's over there. But we really believe in apprenticeships. We think this is the way to help our customers get up the career ladder. And I can't tell you what a better example is than District 1199C. I mean, they do amazing work. And I was teasing Cheryl about a couple of minutes ago, like, can we clone you? Are we able to, what are we going to do? Don't ever retire, by the way. But, we're really blessed to have somebody like Cheryl, drive the programs for us. We are here to support. Our goal is to invest the public funds that we get into programs that make sense. So today, what a great day. I want to say thank you for having us be part of the conversation. And if there's anything that Philadelphia Works can do for anybody in the room, please feel free to check in with us. Thanks, Cheryl.
I'd like to point your attention in the program to this brand new brochure, Apprenticeships Work, led by Jane Von Bergen, who formerly of the Philadelphia Inquirer and now really supporting many projects, including ours. This is a brochure that we're releasing today as of this meeting. It's linked to our website, and we hope that it'll be really useful to you in terms of thinking how to organize apprenticeship programs, especially from an employer perspective. So thank you for taking a look at this and making use of it in your work. So in introducing Mike DeBardinis, our managing director, Mike and I go back many, many years, but the thing that I associate most with Mike is that he's an organizer in his heart. And as a result, I just have felt so blessed, and I think we are as a city, that Mike really brought his attention to the workforce world and to really thinking about how Philadelphia can provide a leading vision around workforce that connects to economic development and ensures that the great economic opportunity in this city is really available to everybody, to every vulnerable citizen, to every person in the city of Philadelphia. And it's been an honor to work with Mike, and we really appreciate that he's here today to provide the keynote. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. First of all, to be with an old friend of mine, and for Henry, I'm 69 and I do take vacations. But I met Henry, it was I think 1984. I worked for United States Congressman Tom Folliett, a progressive congressman here from Philadelphia. He was very good friends with Henry. And what I remember from that meeting, I was about in my early 30s, and I sort of show up, and it was like going into a castle, going into the 1199C headquarters in Center City. I was just stunned with how beautiful and welcoming and dignified that space is for Henry and his leadership, his staff, and all the union members of 1199C. It's a real statement about workers and their the dignity of work and the importance of trade unions in that work. And that's what that space, as a young guy, meant to me. Cheryl also mentioned that we're old friends. I did a lot of organizing on the community side. Cheryl and my wife were partners in labor organizing and trying to build the union movement here in Philadelphia in some underrepresented workplaces around the city. And that goes back 30 or 40 years as well. So Cheryl, thank you for having me here. And I also want to point out there's two people in the room who are in our workforce office, and that's Sheila Ireland, she's here, Sheila, and Katie Wolfgang. And they've done great work helping to organize and think about and structure our workforce strategy here in the city of Philadelphia. So I want to just thank you for your service. Jesse and Daniel, thank you for your leadership here. It's great to be here with you and to be here with my introduction to the HCAP folks. It's great to be here and to learn about your work as well. Mayor Kenny couldn't be here, but I bring his greetings and his support. And to the folks in Pittsburgh, we're big urban supporters here in Philadelphia, and we're happy that representatives from Philadelphia, from the Pennsylvania's second greatest city, are with us here today. So, hi guys. I worked on the state level. If anybody knows me, I told that joke about 6,000 times over the years. But anyway, so Cheryl came to me early in the administration, it's about 2.5 years ago, two and a half years ago, and said, you guys got to do something about workforce. You got to get something on the ground that makes sense to help support returning citizens, opportunity youth, 18 to 26, 28-year-olds who aren't working or haven't worked, incumbent workers. You guys got to figure this out. And we started on a journey that ended up just a few months ago for the first ever City of Philadelphia workforce strategy that tries to connect us to the important work that you're doing, the important work that other unions are doing, and what we need to do here in the city as well to build opportunity and equity and fairness in our city. And one way of doing that is building a pipeline, working with folks who have been kept out of the job market, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not intentionally, but literally kept out of the job market because they don't have the necessary skills and training and education to get into the market. Our whole work has been to understand where are the opportunities, where are the growing industries, what are the sectors that want to work with us, who need certain skill sets, need certain competencies, need certain abilities, that we can begin to bring everybody together to build those competencies, to build those abilities, and have people work not into 725 an hour jobs, but real jobs with real benefits and real stability that really provides the dignity of work and the level of payment and the level of skills, in part the level of skills that allows folks to be productive citizens, to have family-sustaining work and a career, not just a job, but a career. So that's been our journey, and we've modeled a lot of that off of what you're doing. In particular, we have City as model employer, which we use our seasonal workforce now to train folks, to invest in them while they're seasonal workers and get them ready for civil service jobs that they can move into. So it's modeling a little bit off of the apprentice model, not as structured, but we're learning from you. We want to support the Registered Apprentice program. We want to model some of our work off of that. We want to support you with all of your success. Look, we're a growing city now. Our population's growing, our tax base is growing, but if we don't grow with equity, we are going to be right where we are 10 years from now and 20 years from now. So we have to build equity into the growth. What you guys are doing with the Registered Apprentice program and what we're trying to model our city as model employer and our workforce strategy is really about figuring out what the industry needs are, bringing folks who have been kept out of the job market, getting them ready to move into family-sustaining jobs and careers. So we're behind you. We want to continue our relationship with SEIU, continue our relationship with 1199C, continue to learn from what you guys do every day, and move our city forward, build our economic base, but build it with equity as we go forward in the future. And we want to stay close to you guys in that work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So really quickly, before I turn it back over to Cheryl to get to the employer roundtable. So even though I'm a native New Yorker, two of my favorite cities are Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I heard there was a little, I love them both equally. And there was a little bit of an audio issue in the beginning, so when I acknowledged the folks in Pittsburgh, so if everybody could please just wave again to the people in Pittsburgh. Thank you for joining us. We're happy to have you with us. And I'm going to turn it back over to Cheryl.
Thanks, Mike. Great direction there. So it's my honor to introduce the Employer Roundtable, where we're going to get to hear from employers who've been implementing apprenticeship in healthcare and really hear their perspective on what that experience has been like. So first, the moderator for the panel is Mark Genua, who's the Apprenticeship Director from Philadelphia Works. And then we're honored to have the following employers. If you could join Mark on the stage. Judy Dotzman, Executive Director of SPIN. Juliet Fink Yates, Community Health Worker Apprenticeship, Philadelphia Fight. Jan Kosick, who's a registered nurse from Triple, which is an organized unit of home care workers serving the disabled community. Douglas Reich, Chairman of the Department of Family Medicine at Bronx Care Health System. Dr. William Warner, Director of Outreach and Education at the Worcester Institute. So join me, please, in welcoming these great employers, and we'll turn it over to Mark.
Is this on? Yep. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? Good. So, yes, panelists, please be seated. So, just before we begin the questions, I just kind of want to make some remarks. I've been in this role at Philadelphia Works now for almost 2.5 years, if I can believe it. But since that time, in that short amount of time, we've seen such tremendous growth in pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship programs in the city of Philadelphia, in the region, in the state, as well as throughout the nation. But I have to make this one remark, and this is no knock on the Pittsburgh folks. I feel you're going to get knocked on a lot today, but Philadelphia has been standing out in the nation. We always get called on by USDOL, various state agencies to present at panels like this, to talk on webinars. So it just shows the growth that we've done, not only in the skilled trades, where we look to those programs for their stalwart for the past couple decades, but also seeing the expansion to IT, to trucking industry, and what brings us here to healthcare. So I'd like to get started with the panel. Please, panelists, just introduce yourself, kind of give an idea of what the occupation in the registered apprenticeship program you're running, and where are you at? Are you starting off? Are you in your second or third cohort?
Thanks, Mark. Hi, I'm Judy Dotzman. I'm the Executive Director at SPIN. We are a lifespan provider of service for children and adults with developmental disability, intellectual disability, and autism. And we have 2 registered apprenticeship programs. I'm going to talk about the one today, which is for our direct support professionals. So we've just finished our first year. We were so privileged and proud that we had 3 graduates of this cohort, and we are tremendously excited about the opportunity that we have had, and the results have been tremendous. We are excited that we are beginning a new cohort with 1199C, and for us, this is an incredible opportunity for workforce development.
Hi, I'm Juliet Fink-Yates. I am from Philadelphia Fight Community Health Centers. We are a comprehensive health services organization rooted in the HIV epidemic, but now serving everyone, particularly folks with chronic health conditions. And we have done an apprenticeship program with community health workers that has been really, really phenomenal for us, for the workers, for our entire team. And so we can talk more about that, talking more about that as we move forward. But we're sort of at the tail end of our program. We've had 10 apprenticeships so far, and we just recently have a new cohort of a handful of community health workers that have come on. So that's where we are in our program.
Hi, I'm Jan Kosek from Triple, and we are an organization that does services for the people with disabilities. So our apprenticeship program is centered around a CNA certification, Certified Nursing Assistant certification. We have 2 that are they are through with their certification, but they're receiving some additional training in the related instruction, and they're also doing their on-the-job training now. We also have another cohort that is going to be beginning in September.
Good morning. I'm Doug Reach. I'm the chair of family medicine at what was Bronx Lebanon Hospital Center in the South Bronx, New York. Presently, for the last couple of months, we've changed our name, and we're now Bronx Care Health System. And I actually can sit down because I'm going to talk about a community health worker apprenticeship, but FIGHT already has one here in Philadelphia, so you don't really need to hear from me. But I'm going to start off by telling a little bit of a story, very, very brief. Came up yesterday afternoon, and I had the pleasure, after I had dinner, of jumping in a taxi and getting a ride here to the hotel. And I'm just going to, as I was talking to Eddie, the driver, he's 22-year-old, didn't graduate from high school here in Philadelphia, and we started talking about job opportunities. And I said, hey, you should come to this conference this morning and hear about it. But long story short, we actually stopped, got a cup of coffee, and talked about where his career could go, what he could do. Guess what? He's interested in working in healthcare. True story, not making that up, and it was absolutely incredible. So he's going to start looking around for opportunities. Got his phone number, he has mine, and we're going to see if we can't make things connect. The point here is you got to make a change one person at a time. All right, in order to change Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. This conference isn't about us. It's the people that are out there on the street. All right? Thanks.
Well done. Good morning. I'm Bill Warner. I'm the Director of Outreach Education Technology Training at the Wistar Institute. For those who don't know what the Wistar Institute is, Wistar is a Philadelphia family name. The building was started in 1892 by Isaac Wistar, the grandnephew of Caspar Wistar, who taught anatomy to the medical school students way back in those years. My point here is that we are on another side of healthcare, and that is about discovery research. We're trying to understand the diseases that people are trying to seek treatment for, and we are coming up with vaccines, and we're coming up with drug development, so that our apprenticing is about training people to work in the research environment. And for this, we have a pre-apprenticeship program, which has been going on for close to 20 years now, and it's a biomedical technician training. And we take Community College of Philadelphia students, and we enter them into this career path. From the pre-apprenticeship program, they can start an apprenticeship. And that apprenticeship is a continuum of employment to specialize with an employer in a skill set that will really instill for them a life science career, if you like.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. So my first question is open to all panelists. So, being in the healthcare, in the research field, I'm sure that you have partaken in a lot of different training programs, some required, some taken on yourself. What does apprenticeship bring that's different than these other training programs? If anyone wants to start.
I'll start. Okay, so for us, in the field of disabilities, not specifically intellectual disability, we obviously many in healthcare we're seeing workforce shortages. There's a crisis, obviously, in workforce, and what Jesse was really talking about today, and Mike, we need an opportunity for the ability to have real careers, not just someone coming in and doing a job. We need people who are going to come in and stay in our field. The continuity of care is critical, it's key, and the apprenticeship program, which gives that ability to bring people on, to develop their competencies, to do it right. We feel we have a great training program, but you can't compare it to the incredible opportunity that they have through 1199C. So we're bringing them in. We feel that we have that leg up because we have the apprentices in. The mentor component is the key, and we were just talking earlier today about how everybody receives something very, very important of the benefit of this apprenticeship program. Obviously, we're hoping to receive an employee that wants to stay committed to our organization. We've invested a great deal. The return on investment is beyond measure. But the mentor is seeing their worth, and that is so important. And so that component really does bring it to a level that is really amazing.
I'll add to that as well. So, I mean, we at Philadelphia Fight have had a very long history of trying to figure out how to support participants and clients or patients that are within our spaces and grow their skills and grow their abilities and hire them, in various spaces. And so as the Chief Learning Officer, one of the things that I've always done is we have a peer education program that allows folks to gain some skills, and often they go into HIV counseling and testing. The difference between that and sort of the apprenticeship program that we've experienced is that in healthcare, it's very fast-paced. You're dealing with really with people with their lives, like life and death situations, really chronic illnesses. And so the CHW, the Community Health Worker Apprenticeship Program, across the board, everybody at FIGHT has said the training that they have gotten from Temple ahead of time has been really extensive, really, really good. They come already with the motivation. They're coming because this is the work that they want to do, and they're coming with a whole set of skills ready to go. And then they come into our clinics, and that mentorship piece is so critical. I mean, it's an opportunity for folks that we know as the employer that this is someone who's going to be with us for a year, hopefully longer, and that we're really going to immerse them into our practices. We're going to immerse them into training. We know that they're still a trainee, and so it really provides a very comprehensive way to build those skills, get somebody on board, and immerse them in the practice of the work that they're doing.
I think it keeps our workforce enthusiastic. They can kind of see that there's a ladder that they can develop their careers. Maybe they can't participate right now, but at some point in the future they may be able to. And also I think it creates an environment where the apprentice can learn in a kind of like an environment that's conducive to learning, non-threatening. The apprentice is not a supervisor. It's more of a kind of like a best friend on the job kind of thing. So I think that is very conducive to learning.
Okay, I'm up. So So it may be rather startling that $11.99 and hospitals don't always get along. But what I want to comment is on the uniqueness of the apprenticeships. At least what we started was the collaboration. We talked earlier at our table for a couple of minutes about trying to break down barriers and have different organizations talking to and working with. So our apprenticeship in the beginning phases was nothing short of phenomenal. You had the union, you had the training employment, $11.99 training employment fund, the city of government of New York City, and education in the form of the City University of CUNY of New York coming together and actually not only planning, but then reaching out to the state and the federal government to become a registered organization. So everybody got together at the table, talked about this plan over several weeks, months, and actually about a year and a half, 2 years in order to bring this together. So it was really collaboration that was a unique aspect of this program that we put together. People actually sat down who otherwise might not talk to one another to pull this off. So it was incredible.
So the driving force in developing a pre-apprenticeship program, which we call the Biomedical Technician Training, or BTT program, was to stabilize our workforce. Many in the academic field and in companies were experiencing a high turnover of people who come in, work, and get trained for a year and leave. Leave perhaps to go to another level of education and get their next degree. We felt there was a real need to train our own people and try to establish them as long-term employees, and this has worked. One of the reasons it worked is because we've drawn on the cohort from Community College of Philadelphia. If they live in Philadelphia, they tend to stay in Philadelphia. Not exclusively, but many, many, many more do. And we've had people on the job in our 20 years experience for 18, 12, 16 years at the Wistar Institute and other places like University of Pennsylvania, because they have felt really at home and felt that this is a life-sustaining position. Our cohort is 12 a year. The pre-apprenticeship program is for 2 years. So at any one time, I'm looking out after 24 different people, and they get experience in not only our institution, but working in the different universities and companies at the Science Center in particular, to experience the diversity of science and how it is developed through different aura of academic versus commercialization and so forth. And there are many different opportunities. So when they finish, they are a generalist. They have exposure to many different aspects of quality assurance, quality control, research and discovery, routine, repeating histotechnology, and so forth. Why we wanted to do the apprenticeship is because with an employer then, they become a specialist. They become focused on what that skill set for the employer really desires them to have. And that is a 9-month more extension of this BTT program to get to a 2,000 hours, a non-traditional apprenticeship as we're defined. And then they are really offering something as not only with a skill set, but a commitment to this company or institution that they're working for. So we feel that is a win-win, and we're hoping to expand this, not only in the cohort base at which we take 12 a year from community college. We'd like to get 2 more next year, 2 more after that. We may get up to 18 a year, and therefore we'll have 36 possibly. And it's a capacity problem beyond that, in a sense. But we are very willing to sort of expand and try to give more people the opportunity to get into the apprenticeship. And those apprentices are finding their sense of worth and value, and we have 2 finished, we got 3 in the pipeline, so we're really hoping to grow as time. It's a slow developing program, but it'll get there.
Excellent, excellent. And soon, Bill, we're going to have to call it traditional apprenticeships because they're so common now in the healthcare field. But so 2 key things I pulled out from their answers is, one, collaboration. We've never seen to this scale education, employers, unions, training providers collaborate on this level, and then bringing more training in-house. Having employers take more responsibility and take on that training more. So, you know, you just heard kind of a rosy picture of apprenticeships. They're doing this, they're doing that. So I kind of want to switch to the other end, the challenges, because I know I've worked closely with some of you on the panel, and I know some of the challenges, but I'm curious to hear, first maybe from our folks from outside of Philadelphia, what were some of your challenges in starting up and operating the program?
It's a good one. And of course, there's always challenges in anything that we do in life, and especially in our professional environments. It's interesting. One of the things was, because what we did was we actually took entry-level positions. So people that were in food service or in security at our institution, maybe in transportation, and some of them were working in those positions for 10, 20 years, and yet they made the decision that they wanted to advance their career. So they had their orientation to education. Many of them only had their GEDs or high school diplomas. And so for them to be reoriented to education and the mentorship program was really something new, and they had to reinvent that and re-understand that. So that truly was a challenge for us. Getting them to sit down, we had out of our 16-week apprenticeship program, about half of that was classroom work. It was about 20 hours of classroom work, of which they contributed half of their own time, and the hospital paid for the other half. So that was actually, to get them to sit down around the classroom table and participate was somewhat of a challenge also, for them to get in tune with that. So I think that was a starting point, at least, as far as a challenge.
In our CNA program, we had problems in we're south of Pittsburgh, and we are having issues with getting CNA instructors. A lot of our apprentices want to have the evening classes, and that has been a problem. Also, just the entire planning process takes a while. I believe we were into it about maybe 10 months before we actually got apprentices in their CNA classes. And so it's important to have somebody who can devote a considerable amount of time to getting the program started.
Did anyone feel it?
Yeah, so our program has been phenomenal. So I just want to say that we've had amazing community health workers. That doesn't mean it didn't come with some challenges or lessons learned. And a couple things that stood out for us was that initially when we set up the program, we had one person who supervised all the community health workers. This person was a social worker and was supposed to support them sort of in sort of a clinical supervisor capacity. But the CHWs themselves were at different locations, immersed in different clinical settings. And what we realized was that actually that model didn't really make a ton of sense for us, because they just weren't able to provide the level of support on demand that the CHWs needed. And so we shifted that model, and now the CHWs are supervised by either a nurse or a nurse manager within those clinics, or we have a very special instance at our Institute for Community Justice, which works with ex-offenders, and they're supervised by one of the program managers over at the Institute for Community Justice. And that actually allowed them to get constant, ongoing, immersive training on the job all the time. They could just go to that supervisor whenever they needed. They were learning various things right then and there by that nurse or that nurse manager, including like wound care as it was coming up, for example. So that model actually integrated them much more fully into those work environments. So that was one of the things that we were challenged by initially that we learned from. And then the other thing that came up was that our initial cohort was some of them were patients of our clinics themselves and were doing the program simultaneously as they were in school at Temple. And while those folks, most of them have stayed with us, all but one, I believe, and have actually been promoted into various positions in the organization, a lot of issues came up around HIPAA and confidentiality, particularly around HIV, which we have a very high level of confidentiality actually higher than HIPAA standard in the state in Pennsylvania. And so that was something that we needed to negotiate and work out. That was a little bit of a challenge in terms of serving the patients in those clinics. So those are sort of two major things that came up as challenges in our program.
Let me just add a couple of things as far as challenges getting started. We spent a year planning and defining what we could do, and that was getting the leadership of the Institute on board with the whole idea, which was not a difficult part of it, but it took time to work out who you would be reaching out to as your participant partnering. In other words, our other employers in the city and the region are also going to take these apprentices on, and we needed to know the game plan that we could use by the state's terms and Philadelphia Works terms to engage another employer through the HR systems and sign them all up properly. The institute that I represent is the overall sponsor of our program, but each of the employers has to go through hurdles of working with online with the HRs, with Philadelphia Works, and for our establishing on-the-job training funding, which is a very plus win for these employers. So that's a very good thing. We want to do that well, but we're finding it we have to introduce all these new possible employers to the methods by which we are governed. So I think that's a big challenge for us too.
And I guess I would end to say, lessons learned for sure, all well worth it. And if I asked Lucy Quirker, our director of professional development in April back there, a mentor, they would probably have something, they're going to this afternoon say their own things. The investment is tremendous. It takes a village. It absolutely, and as Bill said, you must have the, not just buy-in, but the active participation of all levels of leadership. So in order to do that, you also then need to understand that things will occur, and you have to be prepared to stay with it. So when the challenge happens, you can't just say, well, this is too hard. And I'm looking at Angelica because she's incredible, and she has worked with all of the apprentices to be able to get through a lot of the challenges. So one of the things that we have, one of the biggest things was transportation. Actually getting to the location of where our apprentices are working in homes with people in the community, and it was hard. So we needed to do some matching. We learned we needed to have a realistic job preview ahead of time so that people really did understand what it was that they were going to be doing, how to access, and when it wasn't going to be a good match, we had to be okay with that. And also, we require that our employees are drivers. They don't have to have their own vehicle, but they need to be drivers, and that's another piece that we have to look at to see, because a lot of the youth were coming in without driver's licenses. So 1199C has done an incredible job to offer that opportunity. Just life circumstances. There is so much that we find that our apprentices are up against in their personal lives, and it highlighted things for us related to human resources and some of the things that we need to do, no different than many of our employees. So it really did give us an opportunity to see life difficulties that are in front of people. How can we support our employees to have personal and professional satisfaction and some of the things? So it really did help us, but it also did, make us say, okay, this is not something that we can say no to. We need to figure out how are we going to get through this.
Excellent. Thank you. So I heard a couple of you mentioned this idea of even before apprentices entered your registered apprenticeship program, they went through a pre-apprenticeship program. I know SPIN is operates one with the training fund, and so does Wistar and the other folks too. So can you kind of touch on what what are the benefits of this pre-apprenticeship programs, and how has it prepared the apprentices upon entering into your registered apprenticeship program?
Let me start off by saying that when we introduced this whole concept of training to be a research technician at the college, many of those students have never thought of doing this before. So this is a very new concept to them. So a pre-apprenticeship program to them means get the feel of it, understand what they can do, their skills can be honed But they know at the end of 2 summers of work with the pre-apprenticeship program that this is something they're really engaging with and they're committed to it. So I feel that the pre-apprentice is a must for us because otherwise they don't know what they're committing to, and you don't want them dropping out or finding this is a mistake in an apprenticeship level. That's the specialization that they really want to commit well to an employer. So pre-apprenticeship says, we know who wants to go further, they know they want to go further. So
I would say the pre-apprenticeship is the secret sauce. You know, if you are absolutely benefiting from somebody who has gone through that. You know, the areas of, people call it soft skills, you know, people call it all different kinds of things, but, you know, really what it is having time with that apprentice beforehand to say, you know, these are the things. They're identifying their strengths. They're identifying the things that they need to work on. And then there's this transparency of, okay, you know, here's what we found out. You don't often get that in an employee, right? The interview goes great. Somebody does incredibly well in an interview, and then you start to see what it is that's below the surface. And so you are already aware of that. Now, the 1199C and their pre-apprenticeship program is doing all of the work, you know, to work on those things. But they're also being very open with us because, you know, we believe that these things are very coachable. I will tell you that we started out with 5, and 2 apprentices weren't able to continue based on some things that just weren't things that we could figure out together. So it was a personal decision on the apprentice, and that it wasn't a fit. And so, but it worked out well, and it was in a very caring way, and something that I believe that those 2 youth really learned a lot about the continuation of their lives as well.
Anyone else want to jump in on that? Okay, we can move on. So I want to take a moment. I have some more questions, but if anyone in the audience has any questions they would like to direct at all or to any of the panelists, you can raise your hand. Right, up in the back there.
Just 1 second. I'm going to come with the mic so that way.
How do you address the different learning levels of the people that you're onboarding into the program? You know, there's a lot of challenges with being able to read or having computer skills, things like that. So how do you address that in such a variety of people coming into the programs?
I'll jump on that one. Actually, great question. We had people in our community health worker apprenticeship coming in with, as I mentioned previously, GEDs, high school diploma. That was an expectation. We actually had a couple of people joining who already had their master's in public health, which is amazing. We've now, through the apprenticeship program, we're in our 6th cohort. We've trained close to 100 people. And we actually had a community health worker program, speaking of pre-apprenticeship program, that predated this, so that we didn't have a formal training process program necessarily, but we had done a lot of training. So the experience that we were able to bring to the table with our partners was actually fairly significant. So we had an understanding of how to finesse this. However, what we did was, with the varying levels of education and also from the perspective of career development, we had folks there that were working as social work assistants with only their GED who wanted to become community health workers. We had people who had their AA degree from a community college but working in food services. So we had people with 10 years of experience. So we had people with a wide variety of backgrounds from where they come as far as their education, as far as their employment status. So that was actually, it truly was a challenge. So what we had to do from the very beginning is sort of clear the playing field and saying we know that some of you have advanced degrees, some of you have a lot of education and skills, a lot of workforce development as far as being in the workforce. And so we said let's everybody step back. And we actually took, as far as the formal education process, the first couple of classes, allowing everybody to share their story and talk about themselves and ask questions of one another. And that really created a bond and continues to do so within that classroom. And so then people were respectful of one another, which was really quite important. We learned that even before we started the apprenticeship program, that in training programs we needed to do that, to sort of flatten the playing field, so to speak, make sure everybody's on the same in the same place.
Every stage has a prerequisite. And when we are introducing a student to a program like this, we take a look at what curriculum they followed. We require a cell and molecular biology course and a chemistry course at the college. That is engaging them in the language, at least, that we speak and we talk about in doing research. So every stage of training has a prerequisite to moving forward, and we can evaluate as our mentors along the way do evaluations as a trainee progresses through the pre-apprenticeship program and then in the apprenticeship program. So every stage has a prerequisite, and you must build that into it, I think, to know who you're dealing with.
And I would just add, because that is such an important question, and Lucy would make sure that I would talk about learning styles. So it's not just about, because those are, you're going to hit all of that, but it's really about trying to connect with adult learning. And we see this across the board for us, and as far as the population, oftentimes of people coming in the door to work in our services. So you need to take time. You need to understand what options you have for training and for learning. And so our team does a great job of varied mediums and making sure, because some people are visual learners, right, Lucy? Some people are auditory learners. All the things that you need to do, but you need to do it in a diverse way. And we have absolutely learned so much over time. We're investing in ourselves to become better trainers, better learners ourselves. So that is something, and you have to ask for feedback. That's one thing that you have to constantly do is, and you can do that through the evaluation of the competencies, because if people are having trouble with the competencies, oftentimes you're going to look back and say, well, why are they not learning? What is the obstacle? What is the barrier, as opposed to they can't? So you have to look at it and say, what can we do differently? And that's a constant self-reflection.
So for us, I think this was one of those key lessons learned where going through the Temple and 1199C program first actually brought us really, really strong candidates with a skill set that we needed at our workforce. And that's what I've heard over and over again from the folks who are mentoring the apprentices. That doesn't mean that they don't have lots of areas to grow, and so that's part of the commitment of those mentors themselves, to make sure that they don't have the digital literacy skills, that there's opportunities that they can take at FIGHT for getting more of those skills if they need more support in literacy. But most of our apprentices already had met, if they went through that program, the program actually, this is the sort of partnership piece, really worked with us. They started to know who would be a good fit for our environment once they went through that program. And so they could place and recommend certain individuals for our environment. So that partnership was really valuable for us.
We did a reading comprehension test for our CNA program, and everybody actually passed except for one person, and they were referred to CareerLink for support in their in their educational needs. So.
Hi. Sorry, we have a question from Pittsburgh, from Laura from Partner for Work, and she would like some of the panelists to speak about recruitment and asking about how, if you have any specific recruitment strategies you'd like to highlight, if there's any marketing or additional outreach that is done, and what is the conversion rate from individuals recruited to those actually enrolling in programs. If there's anything you can mention about this. Thank you.
So does anyone want to start?
I'll jump on. It seemed to be going first too many times here. But I'll jump on this one. Actually, so within our hospital system, we actually recruited internally. So we took people who were in positions where they were looking for career advancement. And this is, again, the phenomenal aspect of the collaboration. It was actually the union, the management appealed to the union and said, could you identify folks in our institution who are looking for career advancement. And so they, as I mentioned before, they would go to the transporter, the food service handlers, maybe the medical assistants, and they would then talk to them. And they had a formal process, formal, informal, where they'd have conversation and they had some questions they would ask, make sure the folks were from the community that they were going to serve, and then that's basically the way the recruitment process happened internally. I just want to mention another, and it was extremely successful in that everyone that's been identified by the union, presented to management, and who have gone through the training have graduated, and then 100% are employed as community health workers within our institution. And that was part of the commitment and agreement between labor management before we started. So it was really a cool thing. I would also say that 25%, approaching 30% of the folks that have gone through training have now gone on beyond that as far as career advancement and education have concerned within and outside of our organization institution. 3 people have actually gone into, we were talking about education earlier, have actually left healthcare and gone to work for the Board of Education in New York City. So it's kind of a neat, it's presented opportunities that they didn't realize even were available to them.
I'm going to jump in again, follow your lead. As large as you may think the community college student body is, I am surprised that there aren't more people coming out to information sessions that I give 4 times a year, twice in October, twice in February. And so there's a selling job that's required in your program. You must go out and tell the story about the opportunities. And I find that while we do this formally, and I am joined by an academic coordinator for the program, who's a faculty member at the college, and the dean of the Wistar Institute's biomedical training program, programs and education, we sell this program a lot. But the response is, surprisingly, to me still, is that there aren't that many who are investigating the possibility. So we have to keep promoting. Now, letters go out to all members of the student body taking certain science courses at community college. And so they have information that's sent out by the college faculty. And so they got invites through that. Then they come out and listen to presentations, PowerPoint presentations that last an hour, as I say, 4 times a year. And from that, applications can be submitted. So it's a sell job all the time in order to get people that you want in your domain.
I guess I would just add that, again, we are privileged and honored to be a partner with 1199C Training and Upgrading Fund, who is the intermediary. So therefore, we were going to do this on our own. When we learned of the collaboration, it was a no-brainer. So I quickly said that we were going to participate. I've been engaged with Cheryl for a very long time. And so I urge you to look for opportunities. I'm so happy to hear 1199C is reaching out broader, and there are others, I believe, but I'm not sure. So our leaders in the room, we need more across the state.
So I don't think that in the CHW program, at least from my perspective, that recruitment is a huge problem. This is such a phenomenal entry-level way to get folks into healthcare. Folks from our program have gone on to be assistant case managers. They've gone back to school to get BSWs. They're going to be social workers or RNs. So there's such a diversity of pathways for community health workers. And from my experience, when we talk about this program, everybody wants to do it, and particularly if you know a lot of the services in Philadelphia, if you've navigated the services or if you've had to navigate benefits and services, it is complex, it is difficult. We do not make it easy for folks to navigate healthcare, and so folks who've had experience with that, particularly if they've had any chronic illnesses themselves, really want to do it. They want to get into this area. And so the question really is, building up the skills so that folks really do have the skills that they need to start at the right program. There's a lot of community health worker programs in Philadelphia, I know at Penn and at Drexel and at Temple, but the apprenticeship program is that piece that allows folks to actually have that on-the-job training and that pre-work so that they really know whether they're a good fit at that agency.
We just had went in-house for our apprentices, and we had like PowerPoint presentations, and we just kind of weaned it down to the application process. I think we probably started out with maybe about 50 people signing up for informational meetings, and when it got down to actually filling out applications and doing reading tests, it was down to like 14, and for different reasons, times of school when the classes were available. Now we're down to 2 that are participating right now and 2 to 3 that will start in September. So the numbers go down quickly.
Does anyone else have a question from in the back?
Good morning, and thank you for the information. My name is Suleiman, Director of Employment Service at JEBS. If you were to talk to employers or organizations that are not using apprenticeship, what would you say to them to convince them this is the way to go?
Yeah, and I think that's a really key question. Kind of, in turn, what convinced you, and then what do you think would convince other employers to join?
Well, I'll start again. I know that a lot of employers are looking for very well-trained, skilled individuals. I think we're providing that skills training and preparing them for it. So I think what we have to tell the employers is we're providing you with a skilled individual who already knows a good basis and can do a variety of things in the research environment. But we recognize that you have a very set of special skills that you want to train this person for. So if you feel this person is employable, you want them in your position to fill that role, give them the extended training. We have those parameters of measuring out how people develop their competencies, how they mature through their competencies. They have metrics that can actually monitor how well they're getting on with it. So I think if I'm answering your question, you're looking for employers who need to have a position filled. We know many, many employers who are looking for filling their pipeline of workers and so on. So we go to them and say, we can get you a person if you're so interested in training them through the apprenticeship phase of it.
And I would add, so JEBS is another partner, an employer with direct support professionals and others. You have other apprentices as well. So what we say, right, is we have done a lot of complaining about not having a workforce, and we're looking for solutions. This is a solution. There is no doubt. This is it's the solution. And we are looking for opportunity to be able to create careers for people in our services. And there is no better group to go. First of all, the youth is our future. We need them to be aware of our opportunities in healthcare. They're not. Oftentimes, we need to partner with the schools. We need to drive home how important this work is. And the way that you can do that is by bringing them in to do the work and giving them the chance to be able to go to school, get a degree, and hopefully, as much as important as this work is, it does not have a living or family-sustaining wage. And we have to get there. But we are developing highly qualified people to be in this industry, and that is the way to do it. We now need our funders to be able to answer that as well. But these are all the right reasons, and so we need to invest because it is not just the right thing to do; it's the only thing to do.
Wow, can we get that quote on a flyer?
I just want to add to that. When we're investing in individuals from the get-go, we're bringing them on. We are really creating really loyal, really diehard employees who love the agency. I mean, that's really what's come out of some of that program, and who so there's that mutual benefit because they're getting the training, they're getting that immersive experience, but we're getting, as an employer, really, really valuable employees who want to stay with us and hopefully grow with us. And so in healthcare, and in particular, community health workers, we would take on a lot more if we could. There's a huge, huge need for them. And so for anybody doing healthcare as an employer, I would say this is such a great model for building your capacity, being able to serve your patients, building a loyal workforce that is dependable, that comes to you with skills already. I think that's a huge piece of it.
And as employers, as our needs changed, we can kind of design that into our programs.
Any other questions right in front here? Yeah.
What is your financial model? Who pays for the training? And are the apprentices paid, or is there a stipend? How does all the financial part of it work?
So I'm going to turn to my right. No, I'm kidding. Oh, well, because Mark can obviously address this. We are, the funding is, and thank you to Ron and Jim and Pat and Mark and Meg, and we have the apprenticeship program is receiving funding through Philadelphia Works, which is receiving federal money. So I'm going to ask you to actually answer that because it's easier.
Sure. I thought I was just the moderator today, but so a lot of the actually in particular Judy's program is supported through the American Apprenticeship Initiative grant, which was a nationwide 5-year grant. We're about in the middle of it, and that grant specifically supports various things. Like the mentor training, it supports that. It supports transportation costs for the apprentices. It supports any certification costs during the program. All the wages mainly come from SPIN with a little of what we call on-the-job training dollars. And every program's different depending on what grant it is and kind of what the grant can offer and what the employer needs, truthfully, because this money can be moved around to support the program.
And there's also a stipend for the mentor. But as Mark said, so we designed, through the Registered Apprenticeship Program, you're required to design a wage increase program, and so they go through, and quarterly we increase their wages as they develop their competencies. And so in the end, for us, they are hired. They're employees already, but when they are finished the program, they're actually at a higher starting salary than someone who's walking in the door. So they're higher than someone probably who has already been here a year, because the way that our staff receive wage obviously is through union negotiation.
We do pay our trainees from the very, very beginning. They get $10 an hour now to train in the pre-apprenticeship program. The funding that we enable this payment from is raised by and she's here today, Vice President for Institute Advancement, Dr. Anita Pepper, and they work hard at raising funds from different foundations to support a program to not only pay the trainee a salary so that they are working and perhaps giving up another job to stay in college, which was something we recognized from the beginning, but also to pay mentors. You have to give some incentive and some remuneration for the efforts put forward by the mentors that come in different categories, classes of structured degrees that they have at work, postdocs, pre-docs, principal investigators, etc. So we have a large budget that runs the pre-apprenticeship program. Then when you get into the apprenticeship, we do apply for on-the-job training support, which will take care of 50% of the salary during the apprenticeship, up to $8,000 per individual.
So we do it all for free. No. Actually, though, I say that the truth is there is a lot of in-kind contribution when you go through the planning and the programming early on, and then to sustain it, there continues to be in-kind contribution. I mean, I'm involved, but okay, that's part of my job on a day-to-day basis, but there's a lot of added value of many other people who are coming to the table, not only for planning, but for the mentorship and the education. So you got to keep that in mind. 1199, the Training Employment Fund, even CUNY, the mayor's office, they were all stepping up and saying, well, you know, I haven't done this before, but I'm here at the table. So that was part of the planning. Take it a little step further. The employees, the folks that are going through the apprenticeship are employed. So they are getting their full salary. Indeed, once they complete the apprenticeship and they're successful, then there's an increase in their salary. So there's a benefit to going through the program. I mentioned earlier, though, the classroom work, 50%, in our case, 50% of it was on the employee's time, 50% of it was on the employer's time. So there is, again, a contribution and a commitment on both sides. The hours of the classroom, we made it very convenient for the employees so that it was immediately after their work time. They did a few Saturdays, but we made sure that it was convenient for everybody who was participating, et cetera. As far as the funding, initial funding and the sustainability, so the initial funding came from a variety of both private philanthropic initiatives, the mayor's office, the federal government, the training fund. So there are a lot of the institution, the hospital. So a lot of people came together to support this and continue to do so. It actually, for us, has gotten cheaper. The reason I say that is because all of that, the planning and the programming is no longer necessary. Now it's to a degree, you do have to reflect, but it's self-sustaining. So the costs, as we move it out, actually have decreased. So that's good news.
Anyone else want to add? Or? So I guess the whole idea is, and something I wanted to add here is, you know, the majority of the cost is really, you know, the employer supports it through salaries of mentors, of leadership, and then also of paying, you know, the wages for the apprentices. The grants from the state level, from the federal level, from private foundations, you know, are just used to kind of add an extra to the program, to get it started, to support apprentices, to make sure they succeed. We have a couple more minutes left. Right up front here first. Yeah.
So I have a question about, as we create apprenticeships for people to get into jobs that are very meaningful and critically important but don't pay a living wage or require an education level that is enough for that job but not enough for them to advance, has anyone thought about, can we layer these apprenticeships? So, for example, somebody comes a community health worker, they build some work experience and some skills, but at the beginning of that, let's say 3-year experience, they're also being encouraged to go back to school. So at the point that they're ready to advance, they have that associate's or bachelor's, so that we can really think about a pipeline. My fear is that we get people into that first job and then they become stuck. So what's exciting when they start is not exciting 3 years later.
That's such a great question, and you know, something to be thinking about all the time. You can't do this without having a career pathing vision, and you know, it needs to take you, and it needs to constantly change. So I'll call out Waverly Coleman, who's in the room, a friend of ours, who is leading, you know, CCP's, you know, business program. All of the you can tell you're yes, thank you. Okay, there you go. And in 1999, when we looked at our workforce, we had 2 people in direct support that had degrees, and we said, you know, we're just not gonna make this. You know, we need to really think about how are we going to advance a profession, and so we began a partnership with CCP and doing an in-house, well, it's what was growing to an associate's program. And we had many cohorts that went through that, and we started to grow people who were interested in their continued, not just their education, but their professional development. And we started to do a whole lot of other things at the same time. And we continued to do that, and we started to see that, it started to become contagious. And so, that's how I met Cheryl, actually, was early on. And as I started to hear about the vision of apprenticeship, we were saying, okay, well, we're going to do this. And so when we started to try to do it on our own, it was, there are obstacles. But when we learned that this was an option for us to develop this, be part of this collaboration, we said, this is the future of career pathing. And that is why. So when our staff receive degrees, they do get increases based on their degrees. And then they are part of leadership pathway programs. And then we're developing opportunities for them to grow in many ways. It doesn't always have to be promoted into management, but sometimes it is. But it's really about opportunities, and I think April has a story to share that she can share with you later on. But you can't do one without the other. It absolutely has to be a full-out workforce development plan.
Anyone else want to add to that? We're good. All right. I think let's bring it over here before we bring it back there. I haven't heard from this side of the room.
Thank you. So we have two things. One is a comment about the question that was just asked. One of the things is that for our program at Philadelphia Fight, we actually are hiring people that often are in their 40s and 50s who wouldn't necessarily be, because of ageism, often are not finding jobs elsewhere. So we're not necessarily thinking about like career trajectory, but what we are doing is putting them in positions with livable wages. And so I think that part of it is also really people thinking about the fact that people need to have livable wages, and that in these apprenticeships then moving them to jobs where they actually are able to sustain themselves. So it's not always just going to be about people getting degrees. I think that's really important, obviously, for a lot of people, but there are certain people who going back to school is not necessarily a part of their trajectory, and we need to make sure that they have sustainable incomes. The question I had is thinking about mentorship and thinking about how important mentorship is, particularly for underrepresented folks. And I'm wondering, what qualities do you recommend that agencies look for in the people that they choose to be the mentors? Because I think it does take unique
That's a great
qualities.
question. Definitely.
Mark, let me just respond back to the last two questions. I love to tell stories. Tyrone, 48 years old, 5 children, the sole breadwinner in his family. He went through our apprenticeship, became a community health worker, had a few credits, but like that was 20 years ago towards his AA. So he'd been in education, but really couldn't follow through. So, and he had worked in our hospital for 12 years as a transporter. Well-liked, charismatic individual. He goes through the apprenticeship, works for us, actually in family medicine, as a CHW for 2 years, and just recently he left. It broke my heart, broke his heart. He was a phenomenal CHW, but to that point, he wasn't going to go back to school. He absolutely was not going back to school, and he knew that. But he went to work for the MTA, Metropolitan Transportation Agency, and he now has a position where he's supervising other folks. So getting into the apprenticeship, becoming a community health worker, gave him the wherewithal to realize, and of course, our counseling him gave him the opportunity to realize, I can do more with my life. By the way, he was working 3 jobs when he was working as a CHW. And the CHW has a pretty decent wage associated with it that's negotiated with $11.99. But he has 5 children in the Bronx, and so how are you going to do it? So he's driving, and also as a server in Manhattan at a restaurant. So so this guy is incredible, and now he has 1 job. And so now he's thinking, maybe I can go back to school. So just as far as that goes, I mean, this does give people the opportunity to think about where their career might go, whether they're 18 or 48 years old. As far as the mentors, you do need to pick them carefully. I think that you asked earlier about the challenges. Some folks are natural mentors, come with me, shadow me, work with me, and they know how, they have that gift. And others struggle with that. They work well by themselves or in a group, but that opportunity to sort of mentor and teach doesn't come natural. So we spent a little bit of time, again, with support from the Training Employment Fund and 1199, who did a lot of the education, of training mentors. And that was quite successful. So you do have to put some thought into that and sort of pick and give the folks the opportunity to say, no, I don't really want to be a mentor. That's also important.
So I just want to say thanks to Jen for pointing out that FIGHT provides livable wages for our community health workers. That is very important. But I would also say, as in terms of the training of mentors, so 1199C has also put together a really comprehensive packet of the expectations of the mentors. And I think that one of the things that we did learn over time was that good mentors are folks who are willing to commit quite a bit of time to folks, to the apprentices. It really does take somebody who is going to spend a lot of time. It might be that not just the sort of, because they're required to do regular supervision, but it's really constant, ongoing. They come to their offices, or they're, in the clinical environment, they're coming to them all the time to ask questions. They have to be able to access them regularly. I heard this great statement from one of our nurse managers, Julie Fort, who said things have to be sort of flat. The CHWs really need access directly to the providers, to the medical providers. They can't have this hierarchical system because they have crucial information that they're getting on the ground about patients, and so they have to immediately be able to go access whoever they need. And I think that's part of it. So it's almost like a team mentorship that they get immersed in. So they have one person who they can go to constantly, who's training and upgrading and really teaching them all these new skills, things that they don't know, but that the whole environment has to be conducive to them being able to ask questions and learn and access key people who they need to access.
And in the long run, that will actually end up saving money. If the workers have direct access to the doctors are willing to listen, it's a game changer.
And you need to be identifying your leaders at every level of your organizations. And so we have done that for a long time and offered opportunities for leadership opportunities. And as you're drawing out and you're identifying strengths in people, then you're saying, I remember that, this person would be great for this. And so when the mentor opportunity came on, we had already had people in the pipeline that we had been working with to develop, but then the training was so critically important. But you have to also work with your frontline managers to be able to develop those leaders. And so that's another huge piece, and I know Mark and I have talked about the apprenticeship for frontline managers.
So yeah, that's a key thing. It not only these programs not only benefit apprentices, but it benefits the mentors and provides leadership skills to the staff who might otherwise not receive that. So that's real key. We'll go in the back, and I think we're about close to time. So a couple more questions.
Hi everybody, it's Jim Fode, USDOL, and thanks again for putting this together, Cheryl and everyone. It's an amazing meeting here, and I'm learning a lot, even from a perspective of someone who's had some background in healthcare. I wanted to just echo a lot of the comments about the career paths, and well, first of all, you give a shout out to President Nicholas, who basically said this is a watershed moment. This is this is our moment right now to get things going, and these are our leaders here. And in that vein, I wanted to just make a comment about it's up to us to connect the dots, to allow folks who are coming through the system to really see where they can end up. A lot of folks that come through the system have some challenges. They could be language challenges. They could be cultural challenges. They could be just work challenges. And apprenticeship affords that opportunity for them to really get a foothold into living wage jobs. But they can also see higher, as was mentioned before. So I'm just saying, as you're building your programs together, we know you have specific needs and and want to put it together, but try to connect those dots, whether it be education and training, and allow those folks to to look to see the higher end of the ladder. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. We'll bring it. I know we had a question over here still, or no? So any last question? Oh, right here, right in the middle.
I have two separate comments. So I'm Shirley Moy with Temple University, associated with the Community Health Worker Program. So someone asked a question about recruitment. I just want to give a shout out to the CareerLink staff who are here, because they were very instrumental in doing some initial flushing out of who is appropriate, where is their fit. So I just want to say that that's a great resource for folks who are trying to figure out how do you recruit people. But my question as an employer too, that has a very large union representation, how does that apprenticeship conversation happen when you're trying to bring in new folks in a union field that incumbent workers may not have the same opportunity to do apprenticeship a year ago, but you're trying to create one now?
I know many of your programs operate with unions.
Yes.
I know the Jews are here.
We do. Great question. And, I guess one of the things when you talked about challenges, if we had made a list prior to what our challenges were, those are the things that probably would have came up as one of the number ones, and we didn't find that. It's interesting, right? One of the reasons for that is the honest, transparent conversation that needs to happen, and our employees understand that this is a responsibility that we all have to develop a highly qualified, workforce that is in it to win it. And so, because our staff understand when they are held over because someone called out and we didn't have someone else that could come in, and all the things that happen to people that are real issues. So recruitment and retention is everyone's job. And so we let everybody know that although you're not working in human resources, you are our recruiter. You are our retainer. It is when people are collaborating, partnering with each other, that's how people are going to stay. And so our mentors are so important to be able to share that, to be able to help people to understand that, this is hard work. This is hard work. But we have an excellent partnership with our union, which is AFSCME Local 47. And our apprenticeship board is so engaged in partnering together to make this work. And so it is a 50-50 of management and union representation. And together we see this as I said, the solution. So we're going to work really, really hard, and so it's information sharing. It's making sure that you are not keeping any secrets, so the rest of your employees think like, whoa, what's going on here that I don't know about? They're excited about it. They see it as a solution too.
It's more union membership too. If you recruit somebody who wasn't in the union before, it's a gain.
So we're sort of a small, Bronx Care Health System is actually sort of a small healthcare provider with 4,000, and I'm serious, in comparison to some of the giants in New York City, we're relatively small with 4,000 employees, but 93% of those people come from the South Bronx. So only 7% are living in Queens or Manhattan or elsewhere. So the union is aware of this. They recognize, the institution, the hospital recognizes this, that our employees are from our community. So when we develop an apprenticeship, we say we're actually recruiting from people that live in that community and represent that community. And everybody is aware of this, and the collaboration is extremely important. And then, as far as career advancement is concerned, that's also critically important, because not only does it benefit the individual, but it benefits the community at large. So you see, it's an amazing win-win program when you develop an apprenticeship that allows for career development and a pipeline of further employment.
Excellent. So I think we're coming to the end. So so give a hand for the panelists right here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you all for sharing your insights and your amazing work. We really, truly appreciate it. So I'm standing between you and a break. Just wanted to say a couple of things as well. I think one of the things that's incredible, we think about this in the context, we have examples here across care settings, right? There are some commonalities amongst the needs, some differences, different occupations, different care settings, but there's some commonality amongst the needs as well. One of the things that we've been doing at HCAP, and Jim is here from DOL, so as a partner with DOL, we have developed a variety of resources and technical assistance. We have 9 national occupations registered nationally. We have supported about 20 occupations registered at the state level. So there's some resources outside. There are resources available on our website as well that are specific to registered apprenticeship, including some of the great programs that we heard about today. But just wanted to, one thing, it's 10:45. We have a 15-minute break scheduled at 11. Really excited about the next conversation, which is the apprentices and mentors. One of the things that we've done, there's been a lot of conversation this morning about mentorship. We have just developed and piloted a brand new mentorship training that we share with our partners as well. So we're excited about that, excited to hear about this conversation. So we ask that you be back here promptly a couple of minutes before 11 so we can get started on time. And I'm going to ask our apprentices and mentors, everybody who's participating as part of the next panel, including the moderator, to please just come see me for a second up here.